Today we're going to understand how spawns work. We're going to improve your awareness so you can have a better understanding on how to manipulate the spawns for your team's advantage. That way it can be a lot easier to win the game. The map that we're going to be looking at is going to be Aquarius because it's a smaller map and it's going to be easier to understand the spawns. We're also going to be looking at the game type CTF because you only have to look at half of the map for the spawns. That way all this information is a lot easier to understand and put into practice. So let's get into some of the details. To understand this map, you have to look at it this way. Half of the map is going to be your side and the other half is going to be the opponent's side. Once you cross into the opponent's side, they're going to have three main areas where they spawn. It's going to be the fridge, the back of their base, and the utility room. And I'm going to outline in red dots the general locations where you spawn. For example, in the utility room at the bottom, you might spawn up top or maybe in the lower sections. So these are all general locations. Same thing with the back of the base. You're mainly going to spawn in the back of the base, but there could be some variability where you spawn a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. So just have these as a general guideline. And to make these spawns easier to understand, we're going to make them into blocks. We're going to have two blocks, one for the fridge and one for the utility room, and we're going to call these the side spawns. And we're going to have a larger block that's going to be red, and that's going to indicate the back of the base spawns. So here we have our three main spawn areas. In addition, from these three areas, you're also going to have other spawn locations. And that's what we have marked down over here with this red dot near the planters, and then over here in front of the base. And the reason why we're turning all these spawn areas into blocks and color coding them, because it's going to make it easier to understand. And your opponent is going to get that yellow spawn or the overextension spawn whenever the other three main spawn areas are being occupied, or maybe they're being pre-nated or somebody has sidelines in those areas. So the game, in order to protect your opponent, is going to give them that overextension spawn that's out there by the planters, kinda in a hidden area. The other spawn that the game might give your opponent is a spawn that's not too common, but it does occur during the game. It's going to be the green spawn. And this spawn happens whenever the other four areas are being occupied or being highly contested. So that's something to be aware of. Now, having all this information available to us, let's put it into practice so we can improve our awareness and our gameplay. So now, let's look at different situations and scenarios so we can see how the spawns are going to be working. The first situation, imagine that you take out your opponent's entire team. When this happens, you barely have enough time to go inside their base. If this happens and they're starting to spawn up, you know you're going to be pinched or trapped inside their base. So that means you're going to have to get another round of slays in order to advance the flag. And the flip side to that situation is you take the whole opponent's entire team out and you're able to go into their base and move the flag out so fast that their spawners are not going to have an opportunity to stop you or trap you in. So it's important to know the difference between one scenario where you're going to be stuck in back of their base or the other scenario where you're going to be free to move out without having anybody contest you. Another scenario is going to be which side of the map do you want to pull the flag. As you can tell, if you look at the map, there's going to be more spawners up by the fridge side because you have the fridge spawn and then you have that planter spawn in yellow. So if you were to pull the flag and take it towards the utility side, you're going to have less opposition, and this can make it a lot easier to run a flag. It doesn't mean that you can't run it from the fridge side, but that just means that you have to have teammates blocking those two areas in order to make it easier for your team. Because if you're blocking those two areas, your enemy is going to spawn in the utility or in the back of the base. Now, if you're playing top center, what you can do to help your teammates out is have some sight lines for the back of the base or the sides, or be aware to go look at that overextension spawn in order to block it, or maybe you occupy that space in order so nobody spawns in that area so your teammates have an easier route on getting out. So these are just some ideas in order to understand how to manipulate the spawns. I didn't go into a lot more details, but it is just a general idea. So if you're blocking fridge, you're going to have the opponent spawn in utility. If you're blocking the back of the base, they're going to spawn fridge and utility. If you're blocking the fridge and the utility, they're going to spawn in the back of the base or in the yellow spawn, the overextension spawn. You just have to be aware of what you're trying to do. If you're going to run it on a certain side, try to block those sides. If you know that you're by yourself, just block a side and wait for your teammates to come help. And it all comes down to awareness, understanding where your teammates are at, what they are blocking, and what's going to be free. Once you have that information, then you can decide what's going to be the best route to run the flag or where you need to be standing. Because if the majority of your team is on the fridge, then maybe you could block the utility in order to force the opponent to spawn in the back of the base or maybe the overextension, because you know you have numbers that are going to take care of the overextension. And remember, you can apply these same principles to other maps and other game types. And hopefully they're able to help you out and make you a better player. And thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate all you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.